I'm going to show you how we can use a CSS grid to create a nice kind of varied layout. This is kind of a modern technique. So the first thing to understand about grid is a grid only works from a parent to a child. So the grid is the parent, and then the children get laid out in parts of the grid. So if I take a look, oops, let me refresh this to be an empty page, at the structure of our Zen Garden page, we have a page wrapper element. Let me zoom in so you can see this. We have a page wrapper which contains 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. So, and I can highlight those and see there's the header, here's this intro section, here's this main section, and then this aside section. So those are my 4 sections. There's going to be 4 big elements I'm laying out first, and I'm just going to show you how to lay those elements out in a grid and then how to control that grid. So if I come to style, I should pop back here. The outer element was called page wrapper, right? So that's going to be the grid. I'm going to say page wrapper. I do that with a dot, right? Dot page wrapper, display grid. All right, cool. Now there's a lot of ways to think about grids. My favorite way to think about it is using this amazing grid template areas property. What grid template areas will let you do is basically take a series of strings, just things in quotes, and lay out your area. So if I wanted to say I want to have main, let's say I want to go header, header, main, menu, I forget what were the 4 items. There's main, there's section, all right. And then what you might want to do is then do second menu. So if I'm picturing this, I'm going to have the header across the top, and then a main section, and then a menu down the right-hand side, and a second section on the second part. What this will do is say, hey, those are my grid template areas. And then, actually, it's nice to throw a comment on here, so I'm just going to put a comment. Grid setup. So as we build more complicated CSS, we'll want to divide our CSS file into sections. Anyway, if I come back here, I can see I've got page wrapper, header, the dot intro, dot main, and dot sidebar are my things there. So I can now make rules for header, dot intro, dot main, and dot sidebar. I think that was right. Yeah, class sidebar, perfect. And here I can say grid area and then the name of the area that I put in that template. So grid area main, grid area second, grid area menu. Perfect. And now I've just done the layout I want to do. Let me just go ahead and show you how this looks. So here you can see the dotted lines in the inspector showing you the grid that it's made, because I said to make a 2x3 grid. And there's the header in the 2 sections, there's the intro, there's the main, there's the sidebar. What's kind of awesome about this is, like, let's say I wanted to make the menu go all the way up. I can just replace that. And now the menu goes all the way up. Or I could change this entirely. Grid template areas could become main, second, and then, hold on, main, second, and then the second row could be menu, menu, and then header, header. And then now it's going to put the header down below, the main there. So I can really decide, where'd the header go? Oh, the header's all the way at the bottom now. Header's now all the way at the bottom. So I could decide what I want this to look like. and kind of just paint it with words, which is kind of awesome. The other really nice thing, well, hold on, let me just add some border, one pick solid green. I should have added borders right away so that you could see purple, yellow. Perfect. So now you can see how those areas lay out. And this is kind of a classic sidebar, but again, you've got a lot of options for what you want. So, you know, I could make this, instead I could go like that. Now my header goes across the top and I have the menu down the middle. So you have kind of infinite options for what you want to do. I could put the menu on top and then the header, right? And that would make a lot more sense if I took, for example, let's say I take that menu, the sidebar, and I say display flex and make it go left to right. Oops. Apparently I'm missing something. Let's see, this sidebar. Oh, it has a wrapper. That's annoying. So I'd have to, sorry. The flex should be on the wrapper there. So if I did sidebar wrapper display flex, there we go. Cool. Now that goes left to right. And if you made these into drop downs, for example, you might have drop downs along the top and then your main section. So you have a lot of options with this grid template areas idea. And basically you get to name the areas you want. So you do grid template areas on the parent and then grid area with the name of the area on the child. And you can make any old map that you want. You also could make something really cool. Like let's say I decided I wanted a 9-part grid and I only want items in 3 of them. You know, I could do menu dot, you know, I could do header dot menu dot main dot, the dots here are just placeholders, dot second. So now I've got a 9-part grid with a bunch of empty space in it. And that could be an intentional design, especially if you use color in here or something. You know, if you wanted to start building with white space, you can do that. Obviously, you could also break these parts inside into grids and have grids within grids, which is another possibility. But there's the basic idea of the grid. You can paint with areas. Just like in Flexbox, within a grid area, you can also, there's a lot of grid. So if you go look up CSS Grid, you can change the sizes. So like grid template columns would let you change how big those are. So if I said 200 pixels, 600 pixels, 200 pixels, now I'm fixing my grid template at a given set of sizes. So 262 in this case. I could also do these in fractional sizes. So 1 frac, 2 frac, 1 frac just says whatever the size is, I want the middle to be twice as big. So that's currently not, well here, we'll do header. We'll imagine I want menu across the top 2, let's say. What'd I do? Menu dot header dot main dot. There we go. So now I've got a third area that comes out to here. And again, you might come up with some cool overlapping pattern that you want to have. Here's an example. I've got kind of a stacking overlapping pattern now. So menu, and then I've got my header, and then I've got my main, and then I've got this. So those all stack up, but because it's a grid, there will be tidy alignments in the end. And again, if you play with cool background colors, you can start to make this feel really intentional and dramatic, however you like. So grid template columns lets you choose that. There's also, not surprisingly, a grid template rows, which would let you fix the height. So in mine, I've got 4. So I could set these heights up. I think it may not. Obviously, that looks bad because the overflow, like they don't fit. If I wanted to, this is not something I recommend. Page wrapper, this pointy bracket says select all direct children of the page wrapper. And I can then say overflow Y scroll. So those all become scrolling areas. Cool. And now that scrolls. That scrolls. And if I took these rows and I put them into view heights, let's say, so I did 25 view height, 25 view height, 25 view height, 25 view height, this might actually start to look like something someone would do on purpose, where I've now got 4 boxes that stack up and scroll intentionally. I don't recommend this design. It wouldn't work for mobile, but there it is. Actually, last bit, and then I will stop. We haven't done media queries yet, but just a heads up, it will be possible to change the template areas depending on the size of the screen. So you could say, hey, when the screen is big, use this grid layout, and then just change the grid layout for different screen sizes, and you've got a whole different layout for your page depending on the screen size. So it's a really cool technique.